everyone, it's Teresa here with Culture Engineered, and today we're talking about how to have behavioral or conduct discussions with employees. So this month we're talking about difficult discussions that you have with employees and how to have those conversations effectively. Last week we talked more about performance discussions, whereas this week we're again talking about behavioral issues and discussing those issues with employees. So if these these issues are often confused in the workplace, and one is not necessarily treated the same as the other. So whereas we talked about it last week, performance issues would be an employee struggling to meet expectations or achieve goals within the job associated with his or her job. So that would be examples of performance issues would be not meeting sales goals. Maybe they're struggling to understand how to use various tools as part of that job, or meet deadlines because they're just unable to manage their time well. Behavioral issues, however, would be more around an employee deviating from values of the overall company culture, and in some cases acting in a way, engaging in certain behaviors that are harmful professionally. Typically it's just professionally, but maybe more to him or herself, or maybe customers, co-workers, managers, or even the company as a whole. So some examples of conduct or behavioral issues that you would need to address with employees could be misuse of time. Maybe they're clocking in and out incorrectly or deceptively. Maybe they are stealing. That is definitely an issue. Abusive behavior. So if they're just abusive, maybe harassing to other employees or customers. Retaliation issues. That too is would be a behavioral issue. And even excessive absenteeism and tardiness, that can even be a behavioral issue. So when it's a behavioral issue, it's easiest to identify as a behavioral or misconduct issue by, again, looking at, is this a choice? Now, the employee may not see engaging in these behaviors as a choice. Some examples of that would be maybe the bus is always arriving late and they take the bus, so they're not on time for work every day. Well, they could just plan to take an earlier bus, but most employees wouldn't see that. So again, that would be a behavioral issue you would identify as a choice. The employee may not. So it goes then to say that a really important part of having this conversation with employees is identifying that it is a choice, it is a behavior that the employee is engaging in, and really walking the employee through that process. So there are 3 steps we'll go over today in how to have an effective behavioral or conduct conversation with employees. Step 1 is to meet, similar to what we discussed last week, is to meet with the employee, meet with them discreetly and privately, although you may in some cases choose to have a neutral third party such as HR or maybe your leader, so that, divisional leader, some neutral person present. You want to have some privacy in this discussion. And in this discussion, you chat with this employee, describe to them the perceived behavior, and ask them why. And really hold them to why they are engaging in this behavior, and drill down to, again, you want to emphasize the importance of it's a choice. So using the example we talked about earlier, why are they missing the bus, or why are they late every day? And they'll say, the bus is always late. Okay, so why do you continue to assume the bus is going to be on time? Why don't you plan to take the earlier bus? Why don't you use alternative modes of transportation? It's really drilling down to what the reason is that they continue to engage in this behavior. That's step 1. Then once you've completed that, once you've gotten to a good tangible reason as to why, then step 2 is to discuss how that behavior is different from your values as an organization and how it is disruptive or disrespectful to the company as a whole. So using that example again, if this person is late, then what happens? How does that impact? Maybe he or she is relieving another employee, so that employee has to stay longer. Maybe there's no one there to open the store. Maybe there is no one there to handle call volumes or customer inquiries. So describe how their behavior is harmful to the organization as a whole or to direct individuals, and how it deviates from your values. So if you have a value of to work collaboratively, arriving late is not a collaborative behavior. So it's really important, always, I can't emphasize this enough, in any behavior or misconduct discussion, don't talk about it like because I said so or because the policy says. Values are something that you as a company have agreed to uphold as a whole, as part of the culture of your organization. So it is important to talk about those because that is a commitment. You all committed to those values because you believe that those are necessary to have a successful company. So bring it back to your values. That's step 2. Step 3 then is to outline the consequences or the expectations and consequences. So here's what I expect from you. I expect from you to do what you need to, take an earlier bus or to arrive, take alternative modes of transportation, whatever it is, using that same example, so that you arrive for your shift on time and you are ready to do your job on time. That is the expectation. If you fail to do this because you are, again, failing to adhere to the values we all have committed to, here are the consequences. And so really outline it and don't kind of dance around this here. This is a choice. So you are asking them to make better choices, and also outline, chances are they've made this choice repeatedly differently than you had hoped. So really it's important to be honest and truthful and outline what the consequence and expectations are. And it should be reversed. I apologize. So expectations and consequence. And then you follow up with that. So I always follow up with an email. Hey, so-and-so, just to, confirm, here's what we talked about today. Thanks again for your time. Moving forward, this is what I expect from you. And should that not happen, here are the consequences. You might instead choose to do a write-up. You might instead choose to do an email, like I mentioned. Emails I would recommend for less egregious offenses. Obviously, if someone is harassing someone else or bullying or retaliating, these are much more severe situations and call for much more severe follow-ups and consequences. So again, this is a really important step. For whatever reason, people hate to do this last step with employees when it comes to conduct. But again, it is our responsibility as leaders of an organization to defend the values which we've set in place. If you don't believe in the values, that is a different conversation. Otherwise, the values are there to protect the culture of the organization, and when the culture of the organization is compromised, everything else is just a matter of time when it will start to fail. Unfortunately, it's been found that 1 in 3 conduct issues go unreported. So if you're thinking about it, in the egregious things we talked about today, and 1 in 3 of those go unreported, that's largely in part to 2 reasons. Either employees are fearful that they will not be protected and remain anonymous, or that they will not suffer retaliation for bringing this to the attention of their manager. And then the second reason is that managers fail to model conduct-like behavior or good behaviors. So really make sure it starts here by holding people accountable to the values you've set in place. So if you need help with holding your folks accountable, or you need some confidential ways in which employees can, raise their concerns around conduct issues in your workplace, please reach out to Culture Engineered. That's what we do. Otherwise, hopefully this gets you started. And next week, we're talking about how to communicate change, organizational change, to employees effectively. Thanks.